thank you for sitting down in this studio. Can you tell us about the studio?
Yeah, so this is our studio. We're based in London. This is Studio B. It's where our whole team operates from. So everyone from our producers and writers, production assistants, VFX artists, editors, social media team, all of us based in this one open plan area. Everything from doing our brainstorm sessions to our ADR to actually filming the content that we create all happens under this one magical roof.
30 seconds or less. Can you tell us who is Brandon B?
So Brandon B is myself. I create these fun or some like VFX wizardry videos. I like to turn these like wacky, wild ideas and bring them into reality through our content. And of course, we're big and loving partners of the VIVE Mars systems, using all the virtual production greatness to help create our content.
So, Brandon B versus Brandon Baum, like at home, are they different people? Like, is this a method acting thing going on? Or?
No, I'd say they're the same person. I guess the difference is the Brandon B, all the content we make, as much as I'd love to say I could produce it all on my own, is actually operated by the incredible team that are sitting behind me. When I started off creating the content, it was all me. It was me sat in my bedroom working like 16 hours a day. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd start writing up my idea, I'd then run to the shops, start buying whatever I needed, film it myself, or like roping in my mum or my brother to help me create the content. Then I'd spend all night editing that video until I'd upload it ridiculously late at night. And then I'd wake up the next morning and do the exact same thing again and again and again. And eventually I realized I'm probably not the best person at every part of the role. And then I figured out from the incredible guys here that I'm actually the worst person at every role. I'm a very good like jack of all trades, but I'm terrible at all the specific individual parts of the role. So luckily we brought in a great team of people who are really good at their specialisms.
Yeah, that's what probably people don't really realize about like a social media person or like a content creator is that they're not just one person with one camera or like a phone just doing the whole thing, right? They should have a team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I know some creators that do it on their own and they love it. And I think the goal should always be to get to a phase where you are most comfortable creating content, because that's going to inspire you to keep creating bigger and better content. I think as soon as you're at a stage where you feel like you're at a bottleneck and you're being held back because you hate editing or because you hate writing, or there's a part of the process that is stopping you from doing something bigger and better, that's when I think it makes sense to bring more people on board and help your vision. But I know a lot of guys that they just want to run their own operation. They like being a one-person band. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a lot easier to run.
Different way of running the business.
Exactly.
Yeah. Walk us through the average day of Brandon B.
So there is no average day. Every day is completely different, which is fun and how I like it. But I'd say on an average shoot day, I wake up, normally an early start, to try and get to whatever location, whether it's a sunrise or traveling to the other side of London to a cool location that we found. I'd spend most of the day shooting, whether it's, you know, setting up lights or choreographing the camera movement or just rehearsing runs for our videos. Most of our content pieces, they end up actually being a bit more like dance choreographies than they do acting pieces, because you'll have the camera, myself, and if we've got any extras or talent in the scene, plus stagehands, normally in green morph suits, moving props around. And every single person within that lineup has to hit a very specific mark on the exact same beat throughout a 15-second video. So to create one of our videos or to shoot them, a lot of the time we're doing 50 to 100 rehearsals before we shoot it. And then it takes between, I don't know, 60 to over 100 takes just to get a usable version. So after we eventually wrap our video, it would normally be coming back to the studio, loading in our rushes for the day, cooling it until the same thing happens on loop for the next day.
Then how many do you make in a week?
Oh, it depends. So this week we will be creating 4 pieces of content. So we had an awesome Roman Empire shoot yesterday. Today we're shooting a fun catapult video. Tomorrow we're shooting a great Assassin's Creed video. And I know Friday I've been booked for a shoot. I just haven't been told what for.
Just gonna walk on.
Oh yeah. So much of my life is a surprise now. It's really cool. So we've got two separate production teams that both operate at the same time, run by two separate producers. So they're both producing things simultaneously.
You're doing the TV episodic.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
So I get to jump between the two teams as they set things up, and they, will come up with the ideas as a group, and we'll do these big brainstorm sessions. But from that point onwards, I have no idea what order videos get shot in, which ones I'm needed for on which date. But I get to show up in the shoot and go, great, today I'm throwing myself into this project and have fun on it.
what was your first video where you were just like, I want to do this?
So the first time I wanted to get into filmmaking and I really got inspired was probably when I was about 12. I stole my brother's iPod, and on that iPod, I managed to find an app called Action Movie Effects, which allowed you to put these like very basic and terrible VFX inside of videos that you could shoot on your own iPod. And like very quickly, I was creating these really fun and cute short films that I'd show my friends and family. And then all my friends and family would like pretend to be so amazed at how they were created. And I got really hooked off that passion of like wanting to learn and create bigger and better content. I found Andrew Kramer. I watched every single one of his tutorials from the ages of 12 to 15. And just over the years, just perfected that craft of filmmaking, but also visual effects.
And it was through like YouTube tutorials, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was your film school in a way.
Oh my God. I credit so much of everything that I know today to YouTube. Even outside of filmmaking, like even now, I love watching. There's a creator called Cleo Abrams who just creates these cool tech videos, which I love and I'm obsessed with. I think YouTube is the greatest source for education. It's free and it's just way more entertaining than traditional classroom setups.
But it's also more relevant too from just like traditional film schools as well, right?
Yeah, you could kind of choose the information that you're passionate about learning and dive further and further down it. There are so many creators out there. Unlike other media formats where, you've got your big 6 movie studios, your big 6 media production houses. If the type of content you enjoy watching doesn't fit underneath one of their umbrellas, you're kind of stuck. Whereas social media kind of democratize this movie-making world of people whoever wanted to create content had the access and the ability to, meaning billions of consumers around the world. YouTube has 2 billion active users every month. So billions of consumers around the world got to watch the exact specific type of content that almost feels tailor-made to them as a person.
Yeah. And then that way you kind of own your distribution too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need any other people to have permission. You don't need an agency or like someone else to like buy onto your video.
And for me, that's like the ultimate #1 thing about social media and why I love it so much. The absolute goal and my #1 passion is that filmmaker, that filmmaker chord inside of me. That's the thing that keeps me alive and creating content. The social media side is just this unbelievable distribution platform. The fact that as a filmmaker, I get to express myself to an audience of people, which in turn then funds us to create more content, which allows us to express ourselves even further, is just like this incredible cycle. And the longer we sort of continue it, the bigger and bigger it seems to be getting.
Yeah, and it's like almost immediate feedback, right? So you're not making a huge movie and then taking like 1 or 2 years to do post-production, and then at the end, like finding out it's super disconnected with your audience.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we've definitely had some misses. We've had like lots and lots of misses. We've by no way had like a clean run.
Can you tell me your biggest failure shoot? Like it just was not going right.
I can't think of a shoot that we've had that's been. We've had lots of things go wrong on shoots. I dislocated my knee on 2 separate shoots. I had a shoot whilst I was on stage at a festival in front of like 60,000 people. I was shooting with this big DJ called Jax Jones. And whilst his set was going on, I dislocated my knee whilst we were shooting a visual effect video together. And because, the atmosphere and the vibe that's going on, I just powered on. I was like, we've got to get the video shot. So luckily we did get that one. Outside of that, we've put on these like huge productions where we've got like 4, 5, 6 cameras on it. We've put loads of money into this idea that as a studio we sit there and go, this is genius, this is hilarious, it's brilliant, and then suddenly we create it, release it to the world, and so I think it's this great constant like transparency mirror shining back at you in socials that you don't need to rely on your own ego of I know what's best, I know what the best creative is. you've got your audience, you've got that constant feedback loop of, okay, I'm going to create something, and at the end of the day, the only judge is the audience, the people consuming it on the other side.
How do you balance between, like, I guess in a way there's trends that happen, right? And how do you make sure that you're not like tied to a trend because they might fall out of trend? How do you keep your identity, I guess, from
I think it has to feel very obvious to us. We're actually on a trend cycle at the moment. There was a trend that I saw over the weekend. Monday morning I came in, I was like, hey guys, I've got this idea, I'm desperate to do it. Sort of like spoke to a few people about it, vibed, okay, does my passion meet the passion of everyone else in the team? Once I got enough people excited about it, that was it. And we started running it, and we shot it yesterday. It was being edited as we speak, and hopefully we'll be posting it tomorrow. So I think with this trend watch, we don't jump on all the trends, we actually jump on very few. But when it feels very obvious to us, it's like, hey, you know, the content we create fits in very naturally with where this trend is at the moment, then those are the ones that
But it has to like fit with Brandon B's style.
Exactly.
And then it kind of like, if it overlaps, then you can kind of go into it.
Yeah, 100%.
How did you come up with the ice cream video? Your most viewed video, right? How much? It's like 300 million?
It's actually got over 1 billion now across platforms.
So the population of India basically watched your video. Like, how'd you come up with it?
Oh, I remember the day I came up with the idea. Came up with the idea in my bedroom, as I would all of my ideas, and I went downstairs to tell my mum the idea before I shot it. And I remember saying, like, I've seen this incredible statue in Trafalgar Square, and then Googling it, and then being like, is it still there? And we had like a chat about it and how we could make the idea a little bit better, and came up with the idea of turning Nelson's column into the flake, which was quite cute. And then called my manager up and said, well, let's actually call him, he's my best mate. I called my best mate, who's also my manager, up and said, I've had this cool idea. I need someone to hold this ice cream in shot for me. Are you around? He was like, yeah, sure. Picked him up, we went straight to London. And within 3 hours of thinking the idea, we'd already shot it, and I'd already started getting it into the edit to then be able to post later, the next day.
And are you chasing that? I mean, are you doing like 15 variations of ice creams now? Or like?
Not specifically ice cream, but we put that into a category of what we call perspective tricks, or food perspective tricks.
Food.
Yeah, so we did, I guess, the next version of that.
It's like tiramisu.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know Randy's Donuts in LA?
Yeah. So, the one that the Iron Man was on.
Exactly, exactly. So we shot that ice cream one. We were like, okay, what's next? How do we
What
take
else
that?
can I eat that isn't actual?
Where is there a gigantic food item in the world? And of course, Randy's Donuts. So we created a fun video where I grabbed Randy's donut, put some sprinkles on top of it, and ate it. And again, that video has been humongous.
One thing I really wanted to know about, it's like, one of those things with trend is to have metrics, right? Like, social media is so much about metrics, numbers. How do you get obsessed with, like, not looking at the view and being, oh, I need more views? Or is there like a period where you're kind of like Gollum, where you're like, oh no, oh my God?
It's really interesting. It's something I think about quite a lot, because I feel like there are two sides to my brain. You've got one half of me that is just such a geek and nerd that is obsessed with technology and data and like really understanding numbers and figures. And then you've got the other side of my brain, which is all about creativity and expression and art. And I feel like those two things can fight each other a lot. And a lot of the time, we'll be creating content that, as a filmmaker, we feel like we really get an opportunity to express ourselves. But if we look at the data and the analytics, actually, that's not the right content to be creating. And I think with content creation, and especially with social media, it's all about finding that balance. If we only created let's call them the data videos, things that we're looking at through the metrics of what we should be doing and only be doing because the metrics tell us to, then we're going to lose that fire in our bellies to create content, because it's dropping the thing that we love, which is storytelling, and hooking people into these incredible stories and adventures that we go on. So I think the real art is being able to find the balance between those 2 points, understanding the data, recognizing the data, and using it to, intertwine all of those creative expressions in between it.
Yeah, because like the data is almost like past tense, and then your trend is almost like, or your creativity is kind of pushing forward, right? So you kind of need both in order to lead some sort.
But I guess the interesting thing about data is data trends.
Yeah.
You know, once you have your data set, at that point you can create trends and you can make predictions based off of those trends. So what we do as an example is once we see a positive piece of content that we've created, it's been successful, it's had like great numbers that we support, we like to try and create a hypothesis. And we'll go, okay, what's our hypothesis? Why has this piece of content been successful? And it's the same thing that you would do if you're running a data science experiment. We'll try and run the same thing with our content. And an example might be, and this is something that we actually use, we'll go, okay, well, that video had like a very nice bright blue sky with some nice clouds in the background. Maybe that was why. And then we'll start going back in time and we'll start trying to work out, okay, can we draw any similarities between that and any other pieces of content where we've seen the same results? And eventually you get enough data behind you to be able to make informed decisions to a point where we're at now as a studio. Almost every single one of our videos that we post, we do sky replacements on because we shoot in England where it's grey every single day. It's like it is today. It's normally raining and it doesn't look good on camera. We track our scenes and we map out the skies and we put nice blue backgrounds in them because we know on socials people want that feeling of escapism. They don't want to feel like they're in some gloomy country. They want that feeling of, that looks relaxing and somewhere I'd like to be.
Wow. I never really thought of that. I know for like some TV shows in China, they say that like they actually don't want dramatic lighting. They want it like as flat, which is like opposite to what you want in creativity. But like the more flat lighting is brighter, and then so people can like register it easier.
I think as long as you can, if someone says to you why, like as long as you creatively understand why you're making those decisions, it works and makes sense. I'd say, you know, if we were shooting a piece of content and we were trying to connote, you know, a very down and dull scene, then yeah, it definitely makes sense to
I mean, you do have
gray.
a lot of dramatic scenes as well.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to like what emotions you trying to connote to your audience. Like how do you want them to feel in that moment? And you can use like really clever nuances to help persuade emotion without your audience realizing that you're doing it.
Yeah. So you have a lot of these videos. Are you trying to one-up each other? Are the budgets ballooning, or like what's the trend of your videos?
Yeah, so all of us here, we're filmmakers and we're creatives that are constantly trying to get closer to, let's call it the Hollywood look, and and how we can create these bigger and better scale pieces of content. And as a tech geek and nerd like myself, I'm always looking at new pieces of technology and how as a studio we can be using them to try and keep up with what the rest of the world are doing. We're a small studio, which, you know, on one hand means we can't do as much as the bigger dogs, but the positive of being a small studio is we're very agile. We can try and we can test things and we can run experiments very quickly and turn them around way before these big corporate companies can, because they need to get so many layers of sign-off. So for us, we're always looking at, you know, what is the latest software, hardware, AI that we can get our hands on to help us with the filmmaking process, so we can spend less time doing the parts of the jobs that, you know, are kind of soul destroying, and spend more time doing the parts of the job that really gives us a chance to express that creativity.
So what's the next barrier? Like using animals, or like shooting with animals?
Next barrier.
Or the next challenge?
To be honest, I think all of our biggest barriers at the moment are already being dealt with. They're just at very early stages.
Okay.
So like something I can't wait to be completely like eradicated is rotoscoping. It's just such a boring part of the process that no one enjoys doing. I guess for a long period of time. I don't mind a little bit of rotoscoping. You put in a podcast and you can just lose yourself. But when you're pumping out as much content as we do, and every project needs a layer of rotoscoping, we've got some great tools that we use, like Runway, which allow you to get a little bit there, but it still needs a lot of manual uplifting. But what that essentially means is for studios like us, we're wasting time doing the rotoscoping when that time could be going into improving the composite or creating a cooler sim. Like those are the things that I think artists are here to do, rather than spending loads of time, you know, focusing on feathering a mask.
Can I give you the next challenge?
Hit me.
Okay. You're gonna do a baby, a horse.
Oh God.
And underwater.
Can it be
Ocean.
Can it be a CG baby with a CG horse with CG water?
If people can't tell, no, it doesn't, you don't,
Yeah, as long as no one knows how it was done.
Yeah.
And then we have that whole Avatar debate of, was it shot with practical water, or was it shot with, or was it just CG water?
yeah, if you just want challenges, you can do wet for dry. So you shoot underwater.
Oh my
And
God.
then you pretend it now.
Wow.
You just one up yourself. You know,
Yeah, just no one will ever notice it. It's just for fun, just so we can
just
say
your
we've
own
done
challenge.
it. Yeah.
You know, like I like pain. And,
Yeah, I like the type of pain that no one can appreciate. And it'll be one of those things, you'll get it to like the 98%, and people will look at it and probably not be able to notice. But it'll never look that 100% mark with like where we're at right now. And you'll go through all of that, and it will still have that slight uncanny valley.
I think you'll get a lot of respect from James Cameron.
Yeah, just that one person
Yeah.
who probably does not use social media.
Yeah, or he didn't. Yeah. So let's talk about virtual production, because the very interesting thing is you are the only one that I know is that using virtual production for short form content. Tell me how you kind of got into that, how you got interested in it, or how you thought it would benefit you.
As soon as The Mandalorian came out, that was the first proper breadth I got in the
Yeah,
space. And then I had a friend that went on, worked on a film, it was The King's Man, who was a part of the team who were using the volume on set. And as soon as I started hearing about it, it instantly clicked to my head. I was like, this is the future of filmmaking. There's like a cost barrier, there are a few problems that we need to overcome, but as technology gets better, we'll get through them, the tech will get cheaper, and then it will come to more, prosumer level. So I started, doing my homework at that point, and I always thought, I wish there was a way that we could somehow maneuver our way into the space, until you guys dropped the Mars. Shout out. And yeah, as soon as I remember watching that initial Mars promo video with the team over there, we were all like gathered around a computer, and we thought, this is game changing. It's one of those like really cool light bulb moments where you never really think about it until you see it. It's like, you just assume that the volume, you need the LED screen, but you forget that that's not actually the coolest part of the tech. There is so much more going around in the tracking of where the camera is in the 3D space and being able to interpret that data to then put onto your 3D scene. So as soon as we saw that, I instantly realized how much of a game changer that was going to be for our studio when every single one of our jobs goes through this relentless tracking process where we spend days just trying to create a good, solid 3D camera track. So yeah, I knew as soon as I saw it how revolutionary it was going to be for what we do here. And we've created some of our coolest, biggest, and best videos using the software, or the hardware.
So I've heard how you're talking about like in your camera movements, they're so drastic and extreme that your tracking markers were a little bit like blurred and stuff. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of the filmmaking that we do is actually shot on iPhones, and as we shoot on iPhones, we're kind of very locked into the settings that's baked into the camera app. We've tried using a few different third-party apps, but you kind of lose a lot of the raw image that the built-in camera apps gives. But the downside is that is you can't ramp up that shutter speed, so you do get a lot of natural motion blur. So when you then get into post-production, you start trying to track these shots. It's a nightmare because, you can't really track a smudge of a black mark rather than a very specific dot.
And then using camera tracking helped it?
Oh yeah, using camera tracking, we're not even using any tracking markers, which is great, which means there's less cleanup on our roto as well, and it just means we don't have to waste the first 48 hours of a project being ingested just focusing on the tracking section. So those 2 extra days, it's not like we're working on a project for 2 less days, it just means we're putting 2 extra days into a project where we get a chance to be even more creative and be more wild and do even more fun things on a project.
Cool. Kind of give me maybe like a rundown of like you using virtual production just like with Unreal and how fast Unreal you're able to throw in some 3D assets and have like photorealistic background and stuff. Can you kind of run through some of your process and how much time it's saving for short form content?
So we don't have like a perfect workflow. I'm not going to sit here and say we've like cracked the code.
It's only like 2 years.
Yeah, we're still working on it even ourselves, but At the moment, our workflow is, once we've locked off an idea, we've built, we've got storyboards made up or got some concept art, or like worked out what we want to make an image look like. Then if it's a virtual production shoot, we hand it over to our 3D guys and they'll start modeling, creating, whether it's, getting a kit batch model from online and then putting loads of things together, or it's just modeling stuff from scratch. Then at that point, we'll normally light our scenes how we want our characters to be lit. So we had this shoot yesterday. It was a gladiators-based shoot.
Oh, yeah,
and we lit our subjects, how we wanted them to be lit in the environment, because then we knew that's how our talent would be perfectly lit. I think the most important thing is talent performance.
So you light into 3D before you light out?
Oh, sorry, this was practical. So we'd modeled the scene, then on set, we lit our talent. Then once we'd lit our talent, we go, okay, this is how we want our talent to be lit. We then go back into our 3D scene, and using Unreal, we very quickly move our sun and our directional light over so it matches what we've created in our real environment. And if those two pair up well enough, and we've created a great combo, then we start shooting. We tried doing it the other way around on our shoot yesterday, where we lit our 3D set before we lit our real set.
And you have to match it.
Yeah, and the problem was, what looked good on the computer didn't make our talent look good in real life. So we wanted to prioritize the talent, make sure the talent was looking the best rather than the big 3D scene. And then we can very quickly and easily, using real-time rendering, place that same lighting into our 3D scene, which just makes life so much
Can you talk
easier.
a little bit about that in terms of like real-time rendering? Like having that instantaneous feedback like through your whole process versus like doing something in Nuke and then finding out 2 weeks later that you messed up. Tell me a little bit about how much real-time rendering has been an advantage to your production.
It's a game changer. Before this point, we were guessing on shoots what our 3D scene looked like. And we actually had a shoot a couple weeks ago. We got our virtual production set up, and for some reason on that shoot, we didn't use it because there were some other technical barriers we needed to get through. And the video was me looking across this massive city, looking at imaginary markers that we placed. And even though the markers were correct, I was looking at the right points. Because it wasn't actually there and I couldn't see it through the monitor, the timing didn't feel organic and it didn't feel like it was really there. So my performance through the camera, as the camera operator, didn't match the feeling you should get when you're creating it. Now what that's meant is the 3D guys are jumping in and changing my original
Had to
camera.
morph a lot of
Exactly, and it's a horrible job. But when you shoot it using the real-time rendering and being able to see what your 3D scene looks like in real time as you move the camera around means not only can you make sure it's lit correctly, not only can you make sure your performance is correct, but your talent can also see what the environment around them looks like so they can make sure that they're reacting correctly to what's going on.
In your situation, it's really unique because you're the director, you're the talent, and then you're the writer. So kind of everything together, you have to be able to immediately respond to how it is.
Not always, a lot of the time, yeah, but a lot of the time I sort of I pass it on to other people in the team because it's quite hard to try and do everything at once.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time we'll have a few of our other members of the team come in and direct something while I'm just on the talent side. Mainly anytime I've got lines to learn or choreographies to learn, it's hard for me to make sure that my choreography and my lines are correct and I'm performing them as it should be, whilst also making sure as a director, everyone else's performance is correct, the camera movement's correct, the CG plates and everything are lining up. So it's the best for me is trying to work out, okay, which parts can I hand over so I can focus on the parts that I really need to focus on.
Which is performance, right?
Exactly,
Performance.
exactly.
Okay. What's your biggest fear? Like falling out of trend, or like what's on your mind
Biggest fear.
for Brandon B? That went like super Debbie Downer.
No, I'm into it. I just want to come up with an interesting answer. I like it.
Like chasing the money, or like
The money thing isn't one for me. It's definitely not the objective or goal. Money is a tool to be able to create cool content.
Yeah.
It's not the catalyst. It's not something that you need. You can create unbelievable content without any money.
When you started in the beginning.
Exactly.
Like,
And I almost think the type of creativity you have on no money unlocks this even greater level of expression, because you are trying to create these awesome videos whilst you don't have the awesome tools to be able to create them. And it really strips you back to, okay, do I understand the premise of filmmaking? Do I understand the premise of being able to hook and engage an audience? So it really tests you. Anyone can shoot something sexy if you're given it a mirror and you're given an awesome virtual production or volume set. But can you create a cool piece of content only using your phone?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried phone filmmaking, by the way?
Yeah.
Do you shoot on your phone?
I shoot pictures on my phone, but not like
No video.
Yeah.
What is that, an iPhone?
iPhone 12.
Great, that's all you need.
Yeah.
I find the camera on the iPhone 12, no plug, is one of the greatest cameras you can
Or
shoot
a plug.
Unless you're going to spend like proper money. Whenever people ask me like, okay, I've got a £1,000 or £2,000 or dollars, what camera should I get? The first thing I say to them is just get a really good smartphone. I love my iPhone. I think it's the color clarity is just stunning. When we grade our Sony camera, we try and grade it to look like the iPhone
Sony
sensor to make it like really hit that mark. So I highly recommend iPhone filmmaking or just smartphone filmmaking. I think someone once said to me, the best camera in the world is whatever camera you have on you in the moment of the shot. As in, create good content isn't about the camera, it's about the environment, it's about the story you're telling, it's about where you are.
Yeah. And I think for you guys, it's about just doing it. You know, there's like not that much about concept, it's not about like the talk, it's just like scaling up by doing and just making them big.
Which is why we're also, we're working on, and we don't have it perfect, but this rig where we can shoot virtual production content from an iPhone. So we've got this like small rig case where we slot the iPhone inside of. We have our base station that goes on top of it, and we can create content using it. Now there are a few barriers to it because the iPhone has like this IBIS, like in-body stabilization.
Internal stabilization.
Yeah, which you can't actually turn off. Even when it says that you've turned it off, it's still working, which kind of messes with the Vive or any virtual
Apple,
production
change
system.
it.
Yeah, this is an Apple problem. But it kind of messes with the system. But when you're shooting stuff where you've only got your CG scenes very far in the distance and you've got a practical set in the foreground, like what we're shooting today, you can get away with it. It's only when things are really up close, so that stitch needs to be perfect, that's when we'll jump on our A7.
That's cool, man. And I feel like with that, it has this kind of very personal camera movement that happened to it, and it's not like, it feels like it's on a jib and stuff. Would you say that kind of, like, what is the Brandon B style in terms of camera movement?
I always strive in our content, when people click on it, for them to not think they're watching a visual effect video. They just think they're watching an organic video that's on social. So a lot of the time we'll start our videos like whipping up from the floor because if you were on the street and you see
because
something
that would
funny,
be like your pocket.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we go straight in on the action. We want people to feel like it's a consumer-based video, a bit of UGC content, but then do something that's so cool and wild that no one would have ever expected the ending.
Because you always have like that little twist at the end, the unexpected, right? I feel like that's kind of your style. You have like the beginning is a very personal thing, and then some kind of like magical thing that happens, and then at the very end is the unexpected like twist, right?
Yeah, it's like that 25-second filmmaking. You had Vine, where it was like, can you tell a story in 7 seconds? And then, TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all these other short-form platforms. For us, we found the magical windows around that 25-second mark. That's where we have our most successful videos. Maybe, as a...
Is that the attention span of the general...
Do people struggle watching longer content? Obviously, YouTube is its own beast, but I almost think when you're watching a YouTube video, you're in a different viewing habit to when you are watching short-form content.
Oh, can you speak about that? Like, different social media channels, how do you do different... Like, what's the different formats that you go for?
So go on, what platforms do you use?
I'm super old, so I'm probably, do you know like Zenga or?
Zenga?
Yeah, Zenga.
No, go on.
No, GeoCity. Yeah.
I know GeoGuessr, not GeoCity.
No, I'm just kidding. These are like 2 decades ago.
Oh,
it like before
I know MySpace.
Oh yeah, MySpace. You know
MySpace.
the music one? Yeah, I used to be on that.
And then before TikTok was TikTok, it was Musical.ly.
Yeah. No. What was that one that was even shorter and then it died? It was
Vine.
Like, Vine.
Vine, yeah.
I don't know why Vine died, but
Vine dying was one of the most upsetting things ever. They were really onto something.
isn't that TikTok?
Literally.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they
TikTok.
just couldn't handle the advertising model. They couldn't keep creators happy. And I think the core of these social media platforms are the people creating content on them.
Yeah.
It's like Netflix is only Netflix because of the shows they make,
content on
not
it.
because everyone's like, ooh, they've got such a sexy UX and I love the design of their app. It's the content they put on
really
there.
the content.
It's the same for YouTube and TikTok. Like people come to the platform because they love the cool content that they can find on there. And unfortunately, Vine didn't look after. They bit the hand that fed them. They weren't looking after the creators that were bringing consumers to the platform.
So, YouTube versus Instagram versus TikTok. What are your different strategies or approach or style? How do you change for each?
So we're in this like short form warfare at the moment, where all of these platforms, TikTok have come in, they've rewritten
they're kind of
the
like
rule book.
mixing together too.
Yeah, and TikTok have proven a viable model of this short form feed and page, and then every other platform's looked at it and gone, uh-oh, we should have done this years ago.
Yeah.
And within a year, every platform had
YouTube Shorts,
a copycat version of TikTok.
Instagram Reel, and I see.
But the interesting thing is, not only has every platform copied, every platform has seen, actually, it's the most successful thing they've done in a decade.
So it was the right choice.
Exactly. Just why could no one else work it out before then? So I think we're in this great place with short form content. It's still so early and it's still so new. The reason we've done so well so quickly is because we saw how quickly short form was rising. We got so excited by it, so we jumped on it really quickly. Long form is a completely different world that we're still learning and we're still in the process of getting into. We've got some like really, really fun and cool and different long form ideas that we're looking to activate on towards the end of the year and going into next year. So I think when we step into long form, we just want to work out how we can be different and provide an angle in this like filmmaking and creative community that we haven't seen in the space before. But go on, I'll flip it back to you. Like, as someone who's seen a lot of our content, what would you expect from us?
I would really love to see someone expand beyond 15 seconds, 20 seconds. But I don't know if the people that are watching that, I don't know anything about Gen Z. Like, I could be their father, literally. So, like, then it's really about, can they watch longer form and be okay with it from the same people that are doing shorter form? You know, like, I think they would like maybe watch Netflix and they'll watch something for 30 minutes long, but then could they watch your short stuff and then be ready for something long stuff in the same style? Or I guess the question is how you would have to change your style so that they can watch long form.
Yeah. And I think definitely be prepared. I don't know if I'd say change, but adapt our style. And like, I guess so much of the social space is about evolution. And if you look at the longest standing creators, ones that have been in the game 10 years ago and are still standing now, they learned how to evolve their content as the times moved. And the creators that didn't and carried on creating the same content they were 10 years ago are the ones that we no longer talk about. So I think it's like a natural progression for us as a brand and as a studio to learn that next step, and that next frontier does feel like long form content. It's something I'm really passionate about learning and getting better at. So yeah, I think it will be exciting. It's at the moment a little bit more nerve-wracking because it's the unknown. But I guess slowly over time.
Everything you're doing is unknown right now.
Except for short form.
I mean setting up a studio for short form and then having a VFX team support you, and all that stuff is like almost legitimizing a person with the camera, right? So like that whole thing is pioneering. You're an entrepreneur in that sense. You're the agent, you're the distributor, you know everything packaged as one.
That is the interesting, the cool thing about social is you are the vertical. It's not like let's take the music model where you've got your songwriter, you've got artist, you've then got your distribution network, you've got your label, and you've got like your A&R, and you've got like these layers upon layers upon layers to then actually get a song out there. In the creator world, you are that full vertical. You are the distribution network and the media network.
But that gives you the power too. I mean that gives you you don't you don't need to wait for any permission. You're just like, you can do what
we're not waiting for someone else to fund our content. We self-fund it, or we fund it through being able to have access to these platforms where we can make really cool content. So yeah, it's like such, let's call it a magical industry to be in. I don't know if there's ever been a time like this before where media has been put so directly in the hands of the consumer and like small independent studios that want to create cool content, which means bigger and better art gets made. And we're starting to also see, which I love, especially with the rise of A24, of these more independent studios.
I love A24.
Giving
all their movies are great.
Unbelievable. Giving like less and more unknown directors and studio houses an opportunity and a chance. My favorite example is, have you seen Talk to Me?
Oh, no.
So made by these two guys called Raka Raka. They were YouTubers. And
it's the horror one that just came out, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
To be honest, I haven't even seen it either. Okay. But the fact that A24, who are arguably the most respected indie studio at the moment.
I personally think they revolutionized horror films. They made horror films relevant to society, which, I mean, it used to be scare, right? But now, like, just bring in all these, like, underlining topics that I think they're great.
Yeah. And, like, when before now had an independent studio been the selling point of a movie? Like, you see an A24 film, you know it's an A24 film. On all of the posters.
Topic.
Yeah, A24.
And it brought back the branding of a film. You know, when you see A24, like, oh, okay, now I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Before you see Paramount, you're not like, oh, I need Paramount.
Yeah. Well, that's because those big studios are creating so much content, it always becomes irrelevant. But when you've got a small studio like that, when they invest in a film, so it must be important.
Do you think you're going to go into features?
Yes, definitely. That is our roadmap as a studio. Features and series is why I started this when I was 12. It was the North Star, and it still is the North Star today. I guess the only difference of what's changed is back then I could only see myself as the director, and it was always, how can I personally go on to direct the biggest features, the biggest series in the world? Whereas now one thing I've really learned about myself from opening and setting up the studio is how much of a kick I get out of watching the people in the team around me also creating and developing and directing and producing and writing their own pieces.
So empowering your team, right?
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things in the world is working with a team of people creatively to make an expressive art form. Doing it on your own isn't fun. It can be fun, and there are times when you go, oh, I could just get this done on my own, but one of the things that I love the most is being able to sort of know that I can sort of take my hands off the steering wheel and rely and lean back on other creatives who I trust with my heart and soul. So I will definitely go on to direct features. It's been a passion of mine since I'm 12, and it'll be something I tick off, but I'm equally as excited to watch those around me and those who work at the studio also go on to create their own features and their own series that, as a studio, we run together.
One thing that, like, one example that comes to mind is like Freddie W. And Freddie W. wanted to make features.
What a great reference.
Yeah, and he actually stumbled upon it because he was like, he started a whole studio, and then he was like, now I'm gonna go make features. And then it didn't work out. It took him a long time, and then, so now he recently, I think he has his own movie now. And is there anything you can learn from that? Because ultimately, it's still the distribution that holds the power, whether you can make that movie.
First of all, have you seen Rocket Jump Film School?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No, that was great.
What a series. That was a, when that came out, series weren't even that big of a thing.
No.
That was like probably pre-Breaking Bad.
That was like so ahead of its time that couldn't really. They first of all didn't even capitalize on it.
I know.
It was just like millions of views, and they didn't really even get anything out of it. But
eventually, I think they sold it to Netflix.
Okay.
So eventually, they probably got their payout.
How much money?
Yeah. Was it a fair share? Probably not.
Would it be a hybrid online content thing, or would it just like Hollywood movie go through the same process with the distributor? Like, what are your thoughts? Is there something in between for
So
you to?
I will never stop doing short form, long form, creating content because I love it.
Why stop?
I always want it to be a part of what we're doing. I even think when we're out making feature films or we're out making a series, whatever we're doing, it's like the perfect time to create more content because you've got access to incredible locations or people or
But that's also your like branding, right? I mean, that's also your power.
Yeah.
Like if you're directing a movie and you can say like 8 million people are following my every single move for this movie, I mean, that's bargaining power. for any
100%,
studio.
100%. And also, it's just quite fun to be able to give people that peek behind the curtain. And I credit, there are so many individual names. Ryan Connolly is one of my favorite examples to give from film.
Hi, Ryan.
Because Ryan was so open to showing and exposing every single detail to how his short films were created.
Yeah.
Back when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, I was
Don't
learning.
don't say the age. I think it's offending all the other people.
But
When
I
he was a young
learning-
boy 2 years ago.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah. I was 16 2 years ago. But I was learning a whole depth of how a short film was created
Yeah.
without needing to do it myself, but learning it through him and learning through his mistakes and learning where he went wrong, but more importantly, how he fixed it and went right. So like because of people like him, Indie Mogul was another incredible place.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because of those filmmaking channels, it's
And they were so open about their whole process, and it was just like so dynamic. I mean, so instantaneous of their technology, especially when the 5D Mark II came out,
my
and people were like,
God.
"Oh, cool!"
Yeah.
You know, and then I could do shallow depth of field.
when the 5D, it, for some weird reason, represents like such a point in time in like my young filmmaker brain where it was just felt like we had such a community where
Yeah, yeah.
everyone was just so, maybe it was just like that nostalgia that I paint back to when I was young, but there was something about that specific staple in time when anyone was suddenly
That was
had the
the
ability,
revolution.
yeah, to be a filmmaker.
Thank you, Canon.
Yeah. Who else is on your filmmaker list as far as YouTube creators?
YouTube creators.
Yes, you got Indie Mogul, Film Riot, Corridor.
I got like Quarter Digital was definitely huge. I mean, they were part of Freddie, right? At one
Yeah, of
point.
course.
And
It's so funny that you had Rocket Jump first, and then you had the Corridor guys sort of helped the Rocket Jump guys, and then the Rocket Jump team left to do features. Then the Corridor guys carried on, and now the Corridor guys are astronomical.
they update so much that now it's completely foreign. Like you know how like remember in Photoshop where like it would take you the 6 steps just to like key something, and then now it's just a button.
Oh my God, the remove
I
background
just feel like why did I learn?
Have
I
you-
put so much pain through that, and then now a guy's just like, I'm just as a good keyer as you.
Yeah. The worst is, you don't have this problem anymore, but hair back in the day, when before the quick selection tool was good, you used to have to go around with the pen tool and go and make these Bezier curves. And
You had to learn how to use the pen tool.
Yeah, well, one thing I can say
Not intuitive at all.
is like one of my weird niche talents, I'm really good with the Bezier tool. Like really good with that pen tool, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
knowing
yeah.
where to place each point to make a perfect curve. It's now almost an irrelevant tool because I never really use it day to day anymore. But because you had to do everything so manually back there, I was so good at placing those points, knowing how far to stretch the Bezier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a game that I once found. This is how much of a loser I am. Here's the real insight. I found a game called the Bezier Tool Game, where you would
Well, you
have,
could train yourself. To,
yes, it would give you a shape, and you'd have to create the shape in as least points as possible. And the way you do it is by getting creative with the Bezier curve to be able to get around these obstacles.
Is it better to ask how to walk you through the process of a video, or is it like in a week you guys have different like Monday is brainstorm?
It changes every week, but normally we try and make Mondays. Actually, I say that's probably the one solid thing is that Mondays is our production meeting where we do our brainstorms and we align calendars and stuff. Outside of that, it's the Wild West.
At the Wild West. And brainstorm, how did that work?
So
You pick
our-
a topic or?
Yeah, our brainstorm sessions, we've got so many different ways of brainstorming.
Or is it like, you take the ball and like throw it onto like, let the randomness happen? Or,
So you want to do if it's a branded brief, or do you want to do if we're just trying to create a fun video for ourselves?
Talk about both. Let's just say advertisement, like
Okay.
not like a sponsored.
Sponsored post, brands will send us over some guidelines. Here's the brief. This is the message we're trying to get across. Then it's our job as a studio to interpret that message and go, how do we make it engaging? How do we share this message to people, but in a way that people actually want to watch it? They don't feel like we're shoving an advert down their throat. And I think that's the really cool thing about social media advertising, is it's probably one of the only advertising formats that people want to watch. And if people don't want to watch it, then you've created it badly. So it's our job as creatives to sit there and go, okay, this is an advert at the end of the day. No one likes watching adverts, but how do we make the advert so engaging and so entertaining that people do actually enjoy watching it? Yeah. So that would be task number one. A lot of the time, the way we do that is we go, okay, let's forget the brand a sec. If we were to just go and make a fun video, what does it look like?
Yeah, like what would they
and
want?
we've got this massive list of ideas that we're sitting on that, you know, when the right opportunity aligns, we go and create. Something that's really cool with working with brands for us is it gives us a chance to actually spend proper budget on videos. So a lot of the time we come up with these awesome ideas that we're super excited about, but we just don't have the facilities to be able to fund it. Then a brand will come along, Lego will come along and say, hey, you know, we've got some budget to spend. We want to make something really cool. We go through our archive list and we go, amazing. We are waiting for a partner who we could build this huge contraption with. Let's activate it for this one. So for our audience, instead of them going, you know, Brandon's done another branded piece of content, they actually go, great, Brandon's done a branded piece of content. This is gonna be a big video. There's gonna be a spectacle in it that you wouldn't normally see in a generic piece of content.
It's like a boosted up version of your normal stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
And then for a non-branded piece, we touched on it a little bit earlier. We like to try and create content that people don't think is going to be a visual effect video. They just think it's a normal standard video you'd find online.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, we will literally sit on social media and we'll flick through until we see a video that we find engaging. And we'll just look at the very first second of it. What was it about the first second of that video that engaged you? Was it something someone said? Was it the location they were in? And we'll then use that as like a jumping off point to come up with our ideas. So my favorite example of this was, I once saw, it was actually a photo of someone holding a sparkler, and then in the background there was a firework. And I had an epiphany in that moment. I said, okay, if that was converted into a video, and that was the first thing you saw when you watched the video, everyone understands, it doesn't matter what country you're from, what language you speak, your gender, nationality, anything, you instantly understand sparkler, firework, that firework is about to be lit. So we sat there and we went, okay, we want to start a video with a firework being lit. What is the video? So I remember writing down on my computer every single variant I could possibly think of what could happen after I'd lit a firework. So one version was, Brandon lights the firework goes up and it explodes into money that falls from the ground. So that's okay. Did another version where Brandon lights a firework, runs backwards, but instead of the firework going up, it opens a hatch in the floor and Brandon climbs out the hatch. That's okay.
And that's happening in your pitch area, right?
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of throwing out the idea.
Exactly. And then there was a version of the idea where it's like Brandon lights the firework, runs to the back, and then as the firework explodes, it changes the scene from nighttime to daytime. And I was like, okay, there's something there. So we built on that idea. So from what started off as just a photo online, turned into this like incredibly cool and so different idea from just that initial seed.
If you have the ability to create a video with anyone alive or passed away, who would it be?
The Chainsmokers, Drew and Alex. Big Chainsmokers fan. Love their music. Desperate to make a video with them.
Yeah. What about actor?
The biggest person on the list for me was Tom Holland, and we got to shoot with him.
You really got him.
Which was everything I could have ever asked for.
Yeah.
Like, he was the best. We got like a nice 20-minute slot with him in a room, and it was incredible. He was just such a great sport. By far, one of the coolest people I've ever shot with.
And he's like super down to earth. Right?
Oh my God, incredibly.
I just think it would be hilarious if at the end it was just like all an act.
Yeah.
He's like
and he was like,
total
and scene. And he was like, everyone leave now.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But he just looks too genuine.
I know, he's just such a
That'd be
nice
hilarious,
guy.
right?
He was really, really awesome.
Who do you think if you had would be like super starstruck? Like you just like wouldn't be able to talk?
Yeah, I don't think it would be like an actor. I think it would probably more be like, I have no idea, more because I feel like if I met an actor or anyone within our industry, I'd feel like I'd be able to chat to them for a while. and
Yeah, because you have so much related.
Yeah, and I'd have so many questions I'd want to ask them. I think if I met any form of like Obama or anyone within that world, I would be speechless more because I wouldn't know what to talk about. Or what
like
to
Elon Musk or
Yeah,
something like
Elon Musk. To be honest, I probably would be starstruck with Elon Musk, but I have so many things that I'd love to ask him.
He'd probably like be Iron Man flying around, so you
Yeah,
couldn't really.
one of my favorite interviews of Elon Musk is he was giving someone a tour around his space factory, and someone goes to him, "Why don't you use the blah-de-blah rocket fuel instead of the thing that you currently use?" And he went, "Huh." And then it cuts to a clip of them interviewing again a year later, and Elon goes, "Yeah, you gave me that idea during the interview. I'd never thought to use that type of fuel, but because you said it, we then changed it." And the way they
the guy would
designed-
just like, I didn't get paid for it.
Yeah. And he's like completely changed the way they manufacture the rocket.
It looks like UK taking over boxing. Do you have any plans of being in the ring?
Tim, are you challenging me?
I would for sure lose. So I would probably bet against me and like, make a crap load of money. No. I mean, yeah. Did Jake have like maybe a smaller, not jacked brother to fight or something? Do you box or do you?
I don't box. I do enjoy training. I don't specifically box. I don't think I'll be jumping in the ring anytime soon. This is where I'm at with it. I love the idea of it. I love the idea of just like,
Of just celebrities fighting each other?
Yeah, I love the idea of, working and training really hard for a goal. I think it's great fun. Fans get really excited by it. Where I sort of like realize it's not for me is it takes like a strong gust of wind for me to injure myself or dislocate a knee or pop a shoulder. So I'm probably not the athletic type that's gonna run with it, but I do think it does look like good
You
fun.
could do one of those like the CrossFit things where like, they just do it on the side and then kind of.
Yeah, like one day I'll just secretly pop out and just be like, hey, I'm just ripped. I've got this huge 8-pack and I'm just like muscular out of nowhere.
You have to find another influence.
As a fan of the VIVE Mars, what does version 2.0 look like?
Finding more areas that are very hard for people and basically lowering that barrier. So for instance, we had recently launched a fit tracker because the fit tracker was just like a lens encoder for your lenses. And there wasn't many options for them. And then there were some options were very, very hard to find or expensive. And then so we created a lot of little areas that basically would make the whole pipeline more accessible. So I think the version 2.0 would probably be something that is even less technical and really just hiding a lot of the technical barriers under some like, some tablecloth so that you could just focus on the creative. Yeah. Virtual production is still really, really young, right? I mean, there's a lot of people using different types of pipelines to create content. There's a lot of, you've seen the craze about the LED screens, and there's also just green screen for any like socially you. They're doing 6-track cameras, and they're just shooting. Their tagline is, they make content as fast as you talk. So then they talk a little bit, the person's done, and then immediately they have like content creating. So I think it's really inspiring to see how many people are using real-time rendering for a lot of this virtual production work. I gotta ask, AI, trend, what are you guys doing with it?
So AI has become a bit of a buzzword, and I think the perception people have right now is that AI has just suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
It could change the world.
Yeah, and like, as if that we haven't all been using AI for the past 5+ years in everything that we already use. And you see a lot of brands jumping on this buzzword because it's a buzzword, when everyone behind the scenes already knows that they've already been using AI technology within their products already. So I don't think it's like this huge revolutionary point that we've just got to today and everything's going to change going forwards. We definitely have made some humongous breakthroughs with some of the language models that we're using and just sort of this deep learning state. But I definitely think we've got a long way still to come. I don't think it's something that creatives should fear. I think it gives creatives more time to do the thing they're good at, which is being creative. And I think that's the most important thing that we all need to remember with all this new stuff coming on. It's very important to me that we are learning and adapting how we create content we create with all these new tools coming about, not just software and AI, but also hardware. Because the way a small little studio like us is going to be able to keep up with the big dogs in Hollywood and also create as cool content as they are is if we're one step ahead of them with new tech that's coming out.
Yeah. As you expand into longer form, are you concerned that your audience isn't ready for it?
I don't think so. I think you could argue maybe we're not ready for it as filmmakers, but I'm prepared to learn. I think we've created some long form content, and it probably...
How was it received?
Yeah, probably didn't receive as well as we were hoping, being like completely honest. But I think at the end of the day, it came down to our filmmaking skills. And I think when we create short form content, so much of it is down to this science that we've learned of, you know, how to combine our creative expression of what we want to share and what we want to tell to how to create short form content. And because we've done so much of creating short form content, we haven't really learned how to create long form content. I love listening to podcasts with people like Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan, and those figures in the long form space who are killing it. And the depths that they speak about long form content and how they create their episodes to make sure they're keeping people engaged is so interesting. And I think there's so much we can still learn from it. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm very excited to learn about. Do I think our audience are ready? I'll flip it onto you. Would you like to see long form content from us?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like to you?
You guys did the Jake Gyllenhaal thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's considered long form,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
but I think I'd want to go more on a journey. Like that was like a sit down in like conversation like this. I think I'd rather do something where we're taking our audience on a journey through something we're uncovering or learning with the audience.
Are you talking about like not docu-style, but are you talking about like narrative, like
I think
the Brandon B show?
Eventually narrative, definitely not the Brandon B show. I think my favorite type of content
the
is
Entourage. You could do the Brandon.
I'm desperate for someone to do a reboot of Entourage. The best show, the best.
I don't know if it would. It would probably get canceled.
Yeah.
Like
but
Me Too hashtag.
Yeah, back in the day, it was the best show. Yeah.
But you could do the more
a studio Entourage.
Yeah, studio.
And I'd love to do something like that where people, when they watched the content, they felt like they left learning something or being entertained, educational at the same time. Because I know as a consumer, it's my favorite type of content to watch. I love feeling like I'm like learning something as I go and as I'm consuming content.
Has there been a TV show about a social media brand company?
Not a TV show that I can think of. I think the Hype House had a Netflix show at one point. That's all I can think about at the top of my head. But yeah, I don't think so.
Should we wink at Netflix?
Netflix.
Apple TV?
Yeah. I know that they're listening.
Yeah, they definitely.